On this edition of Crime Chronicles, we come to you from Miami Beach, the South Beach area of Miami Beach. We take a look at a murder that occurred in 1997, and the victim was one of the world's most famous fashion designers. We examined the murder of Gianni Versace in this edition of Crime Chronicles.
In the spring and summer of 1997, Gianni Versace and 4 other men were the victims of a spree killer named Andrew Cunanan. What is a spree killer, and how does a spree killer differ from a serial killer or a mass murderer? While the distinctions are not always hard and fast, especially between spree and serial murder, they are 3 different types of events. Mass murders typically occur at one location in a short time frame, sometimes as long as several hours, as was the case with the Columbine murders, sometimes less than 1 minute. This mass killer makes no effort to conceal their guilt. It is done openly. The killer or killers are often caught and or killed at the scene. Serial killers typically operate for months or years before being caught, and their identity is usually not discovered for long periods of time, if ever. A serial killer may be mobile or may operate in one location and go to great lengths to avoid being caught. A spree killer like Andrew Cunanan typically operates for only a few days or weeks before being caught. Is sometimes mobile and sometimes stays in one area, and their identity may be known before they are caught or die. In some cases, as was probably the case with Andrew Cunanan, the spree killer seems to be on a suicidal rampage that lasts for weeks or months, or until they are confronted, captured, or killed. A textbook example of a spree killing is found with John Mohammed and Lee Malvo, the D.C. snipers who terrorized the Washington, D.C. area in October 2002 by randomly shooting people from their car in parking lots and gas stations for several weeks. Although Andrew Cunanan is sometimes called a serial killer, he more closely approximates the definition of a spree killer.
Miami Beach is known for a number of things, including great beaches, great Cuban food, and lots of Art Deco work. It's also the area where Gianni Versace, famous Italian fashion designer, decided to settle across the street in this mansion, as you see behind me.
Gianni Maria Versace was born in Italy on 2 December 1946. His mother Francesca was a dressmaker who allowed her son to apprentice at her sewing business. He became interested in architecture before moving to Milan at age 26 to work in fashion design. In 1973, he became the designer of Biblos, a successful Jenny's youthful line, and in 1977, he designed Complice, another more experimental line for Jenny. A few years later, Versace presented his first signature collection for women at the Palazzo della Permanente Art Museum of Milan. His first fashion show followed in September the same year. His first boutique was opened in Milan in 1978. Versace became a sensation on the international fashion scene. His over-the-top designs employed vivid colors and bold prints. His combination of luxurious classicism with overt sexuality attracted much criticism and praise. "I don't believe in good taste," Versace said. Some time back, I took an architectural tour of Miami Beach, and our guide told our group what others had said about Versace's design compared to that of his fashion rival, Giorgio Armani. She quoted Anna Wintour, who said, "Armani dresses the wife, Versace dresses the mistress." Versace was proud of his Southern Italian heritage and infused his designs with motifs inspired by historical fashion and art movements, especially Greco-Roman art. He also allowed his love of contemporary art to inspire his work, creating graphic prints based on the work of American pop artist Andy Warhol. In 1982, Versace expanded the business into jewelry and housewares, designing luxury furnishings plus china and textiles for the home. In 1984 and 1985, he contributed a specially appointed Gianni Versace addition to the Mark 7 line of American luxury automaker Lincoln. Versace employed celebrities in his marketing campaigns and seated them in the front rows of his fashion shows, the first to do so. He is also credited with inventing the supermodel vogue of the 1990s by discovering and featuring major supermodels including Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, and Linda Evangelista.
Gianni Versace's clients included the likes of Elton John, Princess Di, Eric Clapton. Many people in show business and entertainment world were friends of or clients of Gianni Versace in the 1990s.
Gianni Versace did not live in the city of Miami. He resided in the city of Miami Beach, which, like the city of Miami, is in Dade County, Florida. In the late 1990s, the city of Miami Beach, especially the South Beach area, was enjoying a renaissance and was one of the most vibrant areas of Dade County, aided in part by the presence of Gianni Versace, its most famous resident. He symbolized the area's flamboyance and vibrant atmosphere. It was public knowledge that his mansion, now known as the Villa Casa Casarina, was in the heart of South Beach on Ocean Drive, and that Versace often ventured out in public. Versace met his partner, a model named Antonio D'Amico, in 1982. Their relationship lasted until Versace's murder. During this time, Versace was diagnosed with ear cancer. He was declared cancer-free 6 months before he was murdered.
Exactly what motivated Andrew Cunanan to go on his killing spree is not known. After all, the investigation of his life had to be done post-mortem. He was dead by the time the case was investigated. What is known is that he suffered a very traumatic childhood, grew up in California, and that he also had delusions of grandeur. He very often claimed to know people he didn't know, to have experienced things he had not experienced. He was also adept at changing his appearance as well. But at some point, Cunanan snapped.
Andrew Cunanan was born on August 31st, 1969 in National City, California, of Filipino and Italian ancestry. His father, Modesto, was a Navy veteran who was serving in the Vietnam War at the time of his son's birth. Modesto Cunanan later worked as a stockbroker. Raised in a lower middle-class household but educated at affluent schools well above his family's economic status, Andrew Cunanan was remembered as very talkative and very bright, testing with an IQ of 147. But as a teenager, Cunanan developed a reputation as a prolific liar, telling tall tales about his family and personal life. Throughout most of his life, he was adept at changing his appearance. He was also very status conscious, a trait he inherited from his father. He was manipulative and would change his personality to suit any situation to meet his needs. Cunanan openly identified as gay in high school when he began having liaisons with wealthy older men. He was voted most likely not to be forgotten by his classmates. Beside his high school yearbook pic, he put Après moi le déluge, French for after me the storm. After graduating from high school in 1987, Cunanan enrolled at the University of California, San Diego, where he majored in American history. In 1988, when Andrew was 19, Modesto Cunanan deserted his family and moved to the Philippines to evade arrest for embezzlement. Andrew Cunanan began frequenting local gay clubs and restaurants, and his mother, a devout Catholic, confronted him about his sexual orientation. This brought a violent end to their relationship. In 1989, Cunanan dropped out of UC San Diego and settled in the Castros district of San Francisco, a center of gay culture. He moved in with a female friend from San Diego and her boyfriend. In San Francisco, Cunanan continued befriending wealthy older men and also reportedly began creating violent pornography. He also socialized in the Hillcrest and La Jolla neighborhoods of San Diego and in Scottsdale, Arizona, primarily subsisting off the largesse of wealthy, older gay men. He was also believed to have become a drug dealer, selling opioids, cocaine, and marijuana, and he became a methamphetamine user. In September 1996, Cunanan broke up with Norman Blatchford, a wealthy older man who had been hosting and financially supporting him. Cunanan was always the host and the center of attention in a social or bar setting, and always picked up the tab, so he maxed out Blatchford's credit cards. As he entered his late 20s and early 30s, Cunanan began losing touch with the party scene and found himself unable to compete for the attention of older men. He had gained weight, started losing his hair, and by some accounts, Cunanan believed he was HIV positive, but an autopsy would reveal otherwise.
As is sometimes the case with spree killers, Andrew Cunanan did not stay in one place for very long. We know he had a violent childhood, and in fact, at one point, he threw his mother against the wall so hard she separated her shoulder. But exactly what made Andrew Cunanan go off the way he did is not clear. We do know his murderous spree started in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with a roommate, Jeffrey Trail.
By April 1997, Cunanan was abusing painkillers and was drinking excessively. He told friends he was leaving San Diego for Minneapolis to take care of some business matters with Jeffrey Trail, who had recently distanced himself from Cunanan. Cunanan arrived at the Minneapolis airport on April 25th. He was picked up at the airport by David Madsen, a mutual friend of Cunanan and Trail's. He spent the night of April 25th with Madsen. The next day, April 26th, Cunanan went to Jeffrey Trail's apartment and stayed there while Trail was out of town. Trail was a former naval officer working as a district manager for a propane delivery company. He expected Cunanan to return to San Francisco upon leaving Minneapolis. Before Cunanan's visit, Trail told his sister that he did not want Andrew to come. A week before his death, Trail told someone that he had a huge falling out with Cunanan and said, "I made a lot of enemies this weekend. I've got to get out of here. They're going to kill me." On April 27th, 2 days after Cunanan's arrival to Minneapolis, he, David Madsen, and Jeffrey Trail had an argument in Trail's apartment. Cunanan found a claw hammer and used it to bludgeon Trail to death. Trail's body was left in his apartment.
Andrew Cunanan's first victim, Jeffrey Trail, was well known to him, and so was his second victim, David Madsen.
33-year-old David John Madsen was a St. Paul, Minnesota-based architect who had met Cunanan in a bar in San Francisco. Upon Madsen's return to Minnesota, he and Cunanan began a long-distance relationship, but Madsen ended the relationship in the spring of 1996, telling friends he sensed something shady about Cunanan. Cunanan told friends that Madsen was the love of his life. When Madsen picked up Cunanan at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, Cunanan was not his usual outgoing, gregarious self. He was withdrawn, extremely aloof, and even struck those who met him as angry. Authorities believe Madsen remained in his apartment with Cunanan 2 days after Trail's murder, as one neighbor witnessed both men in the apartment elevator on April 28th, and another neighbor witnessed the pair walking Madsen's dog on April 29th. Investigators initially treated Madsen as a suspect or an accomplice in Trail's murder. Perhaps when Jeff Trail told his sister that they were going to kill him, he may have meant both Cunanan and Madsen. But Madsen's family insisted he was held hostage or was being manipulated by Cunanan. On May 2nd, Madsen and Cunanan were seen north of Minneapolis, driving in Madsen's Jeep and eating lunch together in a bar. The following morning, a fisherman found David Madsen's body on the east shore of Rush Lake, near Rush City, Minnesota, about 60 miles north of Minneapolis, with gunshot wounds to the head and back from the .40 caliber Taurus PT-100 semi-automatic pistol Cunanan had taken from Jeff Trail's home. Madsen had exited his car and probably tried to run away from Cunanan before being shot.
After killing his first two victims in Minnesota, Andrew Cunanan did what many spree killers do. He went across state lines, this time to Chicago, Illinois. His third victim was 72-year-old real estate developer Les Miglin. It is not clear whether or not Miglin and Cunanan knew each other prior to what happened. Miglin's family insists that Miglin did not know Andrew Cunanan. Authorities believe differently. Based on the way Miglin was killed, they believe there was a prior connection between the two men.
On May 3rd, Cunanan drove Madsen's stolen car over 400 miles to Chicago. Contrary to what I said in my video, the third victim was named Lee and not Les Miglin. Lee Miglin was a prominent 72-year-old Chicago real estate developer. With the murder of Lee Miglin, Cunanan graduated to a new level of cruelty. Miglin's hands and feet were bound. He was covered with a sheet, stabbed over 20 times, and had his throat slashed by a hacksaw. Now, Cunanan was killing for pleasure. Although Miglin's family maintained that the two men did not know each other, such a murder, one that is more personal and intimate than shooting someone with a gun, is typically perpetrated against someone with whom the killer has a personal attachment. Investigators in Chicago noted Miglin's 1994 green Lexus LS sedan was missing from his garage and found David Madsen's red Jeep parked on the street near Miglin's house. Cunanan had stolen Miglin's Lexus, tying himself to the murders of Miglin, Madsen, and Trail. When it was discovered that Cunanan was the principal suspect in the Miglin murder, the FBI got involved, as Cunanan's killing spree had now crossed state lines. In 1997, practically no one had cell phones, and few people had car phones, but Miglin's Lexus was equipped with a car phone. Even though he probably knew the phone was being tracked by law enforcement, Cunanan used it anyway. The phone was activated on May 4th in Union County, Pennsylvania, over 600 miles east of Chicago. It was also activated on May 8th in Philadelphia, and on May 9th near Carneys Point Township, just across the New Jersey state line. On May 9th in Pennsville Township, New Jersey, at Finns Point National Cemetery, Cunanan shot and killed 45-year-old cemetery caretaker William Reese. Later that day, when Bill Reese did not return home for dinner, his wife visited the cemetery to check on him and found his office door ajar with the radio playing inside. She called police, who found Reese shot in the head by the same Taurus pistol Cunanan used to murder David Madsen. Cunanan had stopped and told Reese that he was thirsty. Reese invited him in only to be killed. Unlike Cunanan's other victims, whom he killed for seemingly personal reasons, Cunanan murdered Reese simply for his 1995 red Chevrolet pickup truck. Unlike many spree killers, Cunanan was now employing different modus operandi in his killings. He was a wanted man, an interstate spree killer, but no one had any way of knowing where he would strike next or when.
Well, after killing William Reese in Pennsylvania, Andrew Cunanan made his way here to Miami Beach, Florida. Cunanan drove Reese's stolen pickup truck to Dade County in South Florida. On May 12th, Cunanan began staying at the Normandy Plaza Hotel in Miami Beach, where he paid $29 per night in cash. On June 12th, he was listed on the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. One of the outstanding aspects of the Cunanan manhunt was that he hid in plain sight for 2 months, walking the bustling streets and beaches of Miami Beach and openly patronizing businesses, bars, and restaurants. Cunanan even used his own name to pawn a stolen gold coin on July 7th, despite knowing that police routinely reviewed pawn shop records. Following the law, the pawn dealer submitted a record of the transaction to Miami Beach police, but the report sat on a desk unnoticed. In the defense of the Miami Beach Police Department, no one could have any idea that Cunanan had made his way from New Jersey and Pennsylvania to Miami Beach, a distance of over 1,100 miles. On July 14th, low on money, Cunanan checked out of the Normandy Plaza without paying for his last night there. So why did Andrew Cunanan target Gianni Versace? The answer is not clear. By some accounts, the two men knew each other. By other accounts, they were complete strangers. But Versace was one of the world's most popular and famous gay men, and that may have been the reason that he was targeted by Andrew Cunanan. While whether the two men knew each other is not known for sure, it is known that Cunanan was enamored with the designer and often bragged about his close friendship with Versace. But such talk was consistent with Cunanan's delusions of grandeur. He often falsely claimed to have met celebrities. But FBI agents firmly believe that Versace and Cunanan had previously met in San Francisco, although the nature of their relationship remains a mystery. In 2008, Vanity Fair journalist Maureen Orth reported that Cunanan and Versace had met briefly at a San Francisco nightclub in 1990, and that they could have interacted on further occasions because both were involved in sex-for-hire circles in Miami and San Francisco. But Versace's family has always steadfastly denied that the two men ever met. On the morning of Gianni Versace's death, Andrew Cunanan was standing where I am right now, eyeing the Versace mansion. Gianni Versace had a morning ritual, and that was reading newspapers. But on most days, he sent one of his employees to a local newsstand to retrieve the papers and bring it back to his residence. For some reason, on this morning, he decided to go to the newsstand himself, and that's when Andrew Cunanan noticed Versace leaving his mansion. Upon seeing Gianni Versace return to his mansion, Andrew Cunanan crossed the street, climbed the steps along with Gianni Versace, and shot Versace at point-blank range. It was sometime between 8:45 and 9 a.m. on July 15, 1997. Versace was shot once in the back of the head and once in the left cheek with the same Taurus pistol Cunanan used to murder Madsen and Reese. A witness pursued Cunanan, but was unable to catch him as he fled into a nearby parking garage, exited the back of the garage, and hailed a taxi. Versace was pronounced dead at Jackson Memorial Hospital at 9:21 a.m. Miami Beach police found Bill Reese's stolen truck in the parking garage. Beside the truck lay the clothes that witnesses said Cunanan was wearing when he shot Versace. Inside the truck were clippings of newspaper reports about the murders of Jeff Trail, Lee Miglin, David Madsen, and William Reese. Ocean Drive, where Versace's mansion was located, was descended upon by media outlets around the world. It was a media avalanche, and the city was in a panic. Miami Beach police closed the city, and a massive manhunt involving law enforcement from several jurisdictions ensued inside the small city. Despite the massive publicity and the search being confined to a relatively small area, the trail went cold for the next week. Incredibly, Cunanan was still hiding in plain sight, not going to great pains to conceal himself. After his death, one man reported looking out his window to see a man intently staring back at him from the beach. When the man asked him what his problem was, the second man walked away. The second man was Andrew Cunanan, but as was his practice, he had altered his appearance by shaving his head and was thus unrecognizable, even though everyone in Miami Beach was on the lookout for him. On July 23, 1997, Fernando Carrera, a caretaker at an Ocean Drive marina located on the same street and only 2 miles away from the Versace mansion, happened upon an intruder inside a broken-down boathouse. The intruder was Andrew Cunanan. As Carrera ran away to notify police, he heard a gunshot. With the news media filming the standoff from all possible angles, including from the air, police swarmed the boathouse and demanded that Cunanan come out. When he failed to respond, officers threw smoke bombs inside the house, only to enter it and find Cunanan dead. While lying in bed, he had shot himself in the head with the Taurus pistol stolen from Jeffrey Trail, the same weapon he used to kill Madsen, Reese, and Versace. In total, Andrew Cunanan was responsible for the deaths of 6 people, including himself. Andrew Cunanan's motive was never ascertained with any certainty. Perhaps his drug use sent him over the edge. Another explanation was that he felt that his youth was gone, and so were his delusions of grandeur. Never able to fulfill his fantasy of what his life should be, he struck back on a suicidal rampage at the type of people that had benefited him for the most of his life: wealthy gay men. And Gianni Versace was one of the most famous middle-aged gay men in the world. He embodied everything Cunanan probably wanted to be but could not. Cunanan's remains were interred in a mausoleum in his hometown of San Diego. Andrew Cunanan has been the subject of several films. He was portrayed by Shane Perdue in the film The Versace Murder, by Jonathan Trent in Murder in Fashion, and by Darren Criss in The Assassination of Gianni Versace. Cunanan has been referenced in songs by Eminem, Modest House, and Mickey Avalon. The murder of Gianni Versace was a worldwide event, and so was his funeral, which was attended by the likes of Elton John and Princess Di. No one knew that 1 month later, Princess Di herself would be killed in Paris in a car crash. Gianni Versace's body was cremated and his ashes returned to his native Italy. His funeral service was held in Milan. Today, as you can probably tell, the Versace mansion, or what was the Versace mansion, is now a hotel and restaurant. And it draws thousands of tourists each year, both to stay at the hotel, eat at the restaurant, and just to take snapshots as you see being done across the street right now. At the time of his death, Versace's empire was valued at $807 million and included 130 boutiques across the world, and his designs are still carried in many major department stores. The Versace Mansion is a popular stop on Miami Beach architecture tours, and tour buses always point the mansion out to tourists from around the world. The newsstand, where Versace purchased his papers and magazines, is now a bar and restaurant and is still called the Newsstand. Versace's legacy in Miami Beach lives on. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Crime Chronicles. As we delve into the darker side of human nature, we invite you to join us on our journey by liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Your support helps make possible our inquiry into the sometimes unsettling but always fascinating phenomenon known as crime and justice. So hit that like and subscribe button right now and don't miss future episodes. Till then, Mark Jones, hoping you will join our Crime Chronicles community. And thanks for tuning in.